Empower your leadership journey with the CEO Series. Whether you're at the gym, strolling, or commuting, our impactful dialogues with world-class leaders are just a click away. Immerse yourself in the minds of visionaries shaping today's most influential companies and innovations. It's not just an interview, it's a masterclass in leadership. Don't miss out. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and major streaming platforms.
Good morning, good evening, depending upon what part of the world you're in. If it's Friday, it is the CEO Series. Our guest today is Maher Al Kaabi, a visionary leader with over 30 years experience in banking, IT, and family business. And our discussion, as usual, will be on the career journey, leadership philosophy, and commitment. We will explore all of that. To give you some background, we worked together at a conference last year sometime and gave a fantastic presentation, spellbinding presentation. So with that, I want to welcome you to the show. Welcome you to the CEO Series.
Thank you very much, Ron. It's really a pleasure to be here with you.
You know what, when you gave that presentation, I was thinking through as I was reading your bio, and I'm like, wow, that's quite a journey. And one of the things that we explore on the CEO Series, that how did it work? How did you go from here to here? Because sometimes people look at a person at the top and they think it was all smooth sailing, which is the exact opposite for the vast majority of time. So walk us through that.
I think it was an exciting journey. I think apart from planning only one thing, the rest came in automatically, to be honest with you. I mean, God has been very gracious to me. If I to start, I mean, I used to develop games. I used to make programs when I was very young, when computers were very primitive. This is Commodore 64, so in the 80s. And then I said, I'm going to study engineering, software engineering. I'm going to develop programs for people. And that's what I'm going to do. But very quickly, just before going to university, we were sitting in a family gathering, and we had my father's uncle along with there. And we have a lot of doctors in the family. So like saying, okay, why don't you study medicine? It's really very good for you. Because in a good profession back in that time, I was kind of convinced. I said, okay, let me try that. So I went and studied medicine for 1 year, just believe it or not. And then after 1 year of studying that, although I was doing still very good, I mean, like I was still happy with it, but I don't think it was for me because I'm not really known of putting my head into a lot of books. And other thing is like, I can't see the pain of people. It was very challenging for me. So I told my dad, who was extremely understandable, I told him, look, I would like to go back to engineering if you don't mind, without any hesitation. And that was really amazing for me. He said, that's your career, go ahead. So I was thinking, then why did you guys tell me to study medicine in the first place? So I studied, I went back and studied. One other thing I decided, look, I've lost a year now in my bachelor degree. So I need to compensate that. I cannot do the bachelor in 4 years. So I had to take extra hours during my summer and winter and also fall spring semesters. So I made it in 3 years. So I compensated that 1 year, which I lost. So I graduated in 3 years. I was a top of my college as well, came back. I was supposed to go and do an MBA in US in one of the universities, but for certain family reason, I stayed back.
Okay.
And during the time I'm looking for a job, there was a research company. They would do research on before product launches and so forth. So I started working over there for about 4 months. And given I love data, so I started crunching the behaviors of doing analysis for the people. So the owner of the company was very impressed. Actually, the company was based in Cyprus and they had a branch over here. So they were asking who's carrying out these analysis and giving us more insight, because those things even were very primitive even that time. So I was trying to create a little bit models to see what products would be suitable for what region and so forth, based on the data the people, the researchers were collecting, and based on the data I was also collecting. So that was intriguing. And then people liked it, and we published something completely different, a white paper for that thing. 4 months, I started working in a company as a software engineer. It was a recently opened company founded by 2 members from UAE, one UAE partner and one from Iraq. So I started developing packages like accounting packages, inventory packages, various packages in bilingual languages, Arabic and English. They were only developing it in English language. And very shortly, they realized I'm developing packages in about 3 weeks' time, a full package, full blown. I would go for the sales call myself, get the requirement, come back and develop it. The average experience of the software engineer then in the company was about 8 years, and they were developing packages in about 3 months. So the both co-founders were very intrigued, and I was like, "What is it that you're doing different that you're able to do it in 3 weeks, and they're doing it 3 months?" They actually were doubting it. They were not like saying, "Okay, this is really happening." So I showed them the way. I said, "Look, I'm using the techniques available in the program itself, which actually provides you how can you shorten the time of doing it, which is using a FoxPro language at that point of time and using DOS and C++ as well." And I think it took them 24 hours. They came the following days, both partners. They said, "Look, we've decided that we want you to be one of the other co-founder with us."
Wow.
I am 22 or 23 at that point of time. They were about 30. They were 10 years older than I am, 32, 34. So I said, "Fine, sounds interesting." So I called this thing accidental co-founder. They said, "But you need to put in equity because, we put an equity in the company and all these things." Of course, I did not have the money. So I went and asked my mother, who had the money, and my father did not have the money. So she was very kind enough to lend me money, and which I brought the following day, and I became a co-founder in the company. So that was the start of my career.
Yeah.
I think the only decision I made then is like during college time that I'm going to be doing programming as much as I can only for 1 year. And after that, I'm going to venture into doing something completely different. What is it? I don't know. But I will not do programming for the rest of my life.
Okay.
Then I got an offer from a company called, while I was working in this company as a co-founder, in a company called KPMG Bitmarwick. And that was the time where KPMG took over Bitmarwick then.
Yeah,
but
I remember that.
Yeah, accidentally, one of my friends who was also happened to study in the same place, his father knew recruitment agencies who founded the recruitment agency, and she told us, "Look, I've got you an interview in Citibank. So why don't you go and try over there?" I said, "Look, I've got an interview. I got an offer already from KPMG." She said, "Just go get an interview done and come back." So we went. We both went to the interview. I was selected. He was not selected. So I felt a bit bad that it was their reference and I got selected. He's not got selected. So I told her, "Look, I'm not going to go for this company." She said, "Why not?" I said, "Look, first of all, I feel bad. Second, what is Citibank? This is back in '93. Yeah. There's no internet. Nobody knew what Citibank is. I had no clue what Citibank is. I don't know where this bank originated from." So she told me, "Do you know what Citibank is?" I said, "I have no clue." So she explained. She gave me one advice. She said, "Look, if you join this bank, trust me, Maher, in 10 years' time, you will thank me that you joined that bank." She said, so I told her, "Should I let KPMG, this is an American company, by the way, because they gave me a good background about it." She said, "Trust me, you need to go just for Citibank. And don't feel bad about your friend. I will get him some other job. Don't worry about it." So I really joined at Citibank. Even the people who were interviewing me, I was lucky enough to get interviewed by people who became later on leaders in the industry in UAE, and they're very well known. They're all were local UAE nationals. Hussein Al-Qimzi was the second guy who founded DIFC in Dubai. Yeah. He was also the CEO of Sharjah Islamic Bank, Noor Islamic Bank, and then now he runs his own investment advisory as well. Yeah. So and he became a friend. So he was my boss, to be honest with you, when I joined the company. There were other people like Hilal Daher. There was Hafsa Al-Ulama, amazing lady, to be honest with you, UAE national. She was also an ambassador for UAE in one of the European countries, then one of the LATAM countries as well. An amazing person. So I joined the bank, and this was an accident for me to join Citibank. It was never in my mind that I will ever join a banking career, to have a banking career. Yeah. And they ended up being in the banking industry for about 28 years.
Absolutely amazing. As you were walking through that story, when you mentioned that initial gaming program, Commodore, was it?
Commodore 64.
Yeah, Commodore 64. I'm like, whoa, that goes back a way. So you're doing this, and then you decide to go to medical school based on family, and you wanted to go back and do engineering. You speeded that up. Those were those were major decisions in your career, and I'm sure there were roadblocks that came through, but that was kind of a visionary at that age to be realizing that I don't want to do medicine. I want to do something else. I don't know whether I want to do banking, but I'll try it, and I give myself 1 year. Where did that thought process come in as a kid? I mean, you know what I mean? As you're a young person, that's a heavy level of thinking and making decisions.
Yeah, banking became interesting when I got into the banking. And I tell everybody now, if you really want to learn something and have a wide horizon of yourself, work in a bank, because bank is a mini economy. Like you have a Ministry of Finance, you've got finance. You've got marketing, where you do your tourism. You've got something similar to that, marketing. You've got a Ministry of Economy. You've got an economy department in the banking industry. So the bank is kind of I would say, a cornerstone of every single industry within the country, and it actually makes you look at every single thing. So it completely widens your horizon, provided you actually self-learn quite a lot of things. Because I've seen a lot of people in banking, they're kind of very specialized in one field, which is fine, which is excellent, because you gain mastery in one thing. But I always advise, don't stick to one job in banking, and while you're doing one job in the banking, keep on seeing what others are doing and how can you build that relationship for you to have the broader horizon. So one of the advice I used to give all to my people, and I'd worked with great people, whenever you make a decision, elevate yourself 2 levels higher up. Your decision-making process is going to be completely different, and you'll become actually selfless, because now you're looking from a bigger helicopter vision, and you're not looking after your own interest or your department or your people, but you're looking at the interest of the entire company. So this gives you a different perspective. Yeah. And I think my people did it fantastically well, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's amazing, because, when I counsel, I work with a lot of CHROs and aspiring CEOs. And I said, if you read a business headline and you see something happen, what would be your possible solution? How would you break this down? I saw it on the news today that Apple did this new advertising campaign. It was a complete flop. So my thought is that always put yourself in, it's kind of the same situation that you're talking about. If you were in that situation, what would you do? And that comes back to what you mentioned earlier, is that how do you self-learn? How do you stay in a learning environment, a mindset? Because lots of times people get to a certain level and they say, I'm cool, I'll ride this out, and I don't want to do anything else. Self-learning. Talk to us a little about why that's important.
If you want to remain agile and you want to be meaningful to the industry, to the country, to the situation you are in, you need to get to know what's really happening for you to be able to connect dots. And that will help you to make the decision process accurately. And I can tell you, at every single step of my life, I've never looked at one thing, because if I would have done that, then I would have a very narrow approach of approaching something. So I kept it wide. And because I kept it wide, I got great CEOs I worked with. And the best CEO I've ever worked with was the first CEO in Citibank UAE, was Ahmed bin Break, an amazing gentleman who actually identified that talent. And because of that, he actually kept me and my other colleagues in the top fast track. So Citibank is like an institution, it's a university. Yeah. And they spot every now and then to see who are the future leaders. And I was so humbled, lucky enough that they put me as early on, and maybe the first 2 years of my career over there, or first 2 careers, is like saying, okay, these are the top 10 people we want, and they should be leading the bank in the future. Wow. And they will test you for anything else. So they don't look at the age brackets. They look at what you are, what you're capable of. And they'll actually, that's why I was one of the youngest VPs in the career of Citibank. And Citibank was across 100 countries. And they had about 275,000 people during my time, till about merger. When it happened in 98, it became 375,000 people. So they give you the opportunity to look at it. So when you keep your horizon wider, you're able to do different jobs. So all the jobs I've done in Citibank, none of them I knew before. And just because you kept your horizon wide and you kept on learning, self-learning, so when you get into that department, you had some kind of feel of what that department is. So your time to motion and action was very short, maybe 1 or 2 weeks. And I see people take months learning the new jobs before they can produce result. For me, it was, I was completely blessed. First of all, I would say it's God has blessed me, but I had also great people. And then is the ability to use the people, work with them, and get the things done within 1 or 2. So we transform things in 1 or 2 months. which was very intriguing to our head office in our group head office in UK. It's like, what is going on? Why this department, whenever I go and touch a department with my people, things flip very quickly. So that was great things to do.
Wow. One of the other nuggets you mentioned, you said that you were able to develop a program in an X amount of time, but meanwhile, the engineers who had been there a while, it was taking 8 months or 9 months or a year to do that. That's a learning piece, because a lot of organizations today are looking at skill set versus experience. I want 8 years. You see these job descriptions that say must have 10 years experience doing this. But what you're saying is that if the skill is there, utilize the skill.
Absolutely. If I fast forward now with the advent of AI being there, so the moment ChatGPT came, the first thing we did when we had the next senior management meeting, I actually told everybody, open your laptop, open ChatGPT, and look at the power of ChatGPT. Even if it was at that point in time some hallucination, I said, this is the forward-looking things we need to do. Yeah. Please look at these things, start utilizing and upskill yourself by let it do some mundane job, and you get involved into more critical thinking, innovative job. Supervise what they're doing so you can minimize it. So in every management meeting we do, I keep on reminding the people, please use the technology which is available for you, because the technology is there to help you and support you for you to do things faster. That's why I'm in the camp where I'm saying that AI will help us to do things faster, but not smarter. I know there's another group and a very respectful group who actually worked on the AI, saying that no, AI will actually take over and it'll become much smarter than human beings. And I respect that view. But I personally don't think that, given that I've been working with AI for 2-3 decades myself, developing so many programs, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I know that's a singularity things, but let's see what's going to go on.
I look at it the same way that you're talking about it, because if I have to put something together, the bandwidth I've got to go through, and I can plop it in here, and that's a draft. I look at it as a draft. It's not a finished product. And that saves me so much time to go to the next level in doing that. But I've seen a lot of organizations, they ban ChatGPT AI. We can't use it. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Why?
To support that, I asked my children, I've got 6 children, age of 9 to 18. And when ChatGPT came up, I told all of them to start using it. A lot of people said that was not the right advice, because the 9 years old will actually copy paste. I said, he will learn. Don't worry about it. I've got smart kids, alhamdulillah. I know what they're doing. I also happen to sit as a chairman of border schools. So I even told my school that, you better start using ChatGPT and start teaching the children. So one of the modules I want to teach our children and to be inculcated, and I want to also make it through the Ministry of Education as well, is how do we teach them on modern technologies for the upcoming things? And UAE is very forefront in doing that thing. So 6-7 years ago, UAE came up with a code book of actually professions that we need to teach Emirati children, which were 50 professions to be on, then they need to study it in universities. I think with the AI coming in, I'm sure those 50 professions need to be changed now. And although they were all in technology-related matters, but I'm thinking that's need to make an update. So there are 6 things I believe that we should teach our children, and we should make sure that they're aware of them. And one of them is digital economy. And you being in Dubai as well, you see how UAE's been evolving and developing. And we rolled out our 2022. In 2022, we rolled out our digital economy mandate and agenda by our Minister of Economy, Abdullah bin Tog. So I think it's important that we come abreast and we reskill ourselves, and we constantly reskill ourselves to make sure we do it. That's why wherever we go, I remember I was interviewed by our group CEO in UK because he wanted me to take an assignment over there. And then that was a good trap actually made for me, because I'd never wanted to work in UK, but it was trap. But to cut the long story short, so he asked me, what is your secret of success? I said, I've got 4 pillars that I always look up to and work with. And I think this is a very important thing, which is really going on very well for me. So I told him, first of all, always invest in people. Make sure you take care of your people. If you take care of people, they will drive everything else, the following things. Yeah. So that's pillar number 1. So that means you need to make sure your people get reskilled a lot. And Citibank is an amazing institution in continuing doing that thing. So they constantly train you. They have a mandatory training they need to go for. So that's an amazing thing about that institution. The second thing, how do you constantly re-engineer? If you work on a process, or if you come up with an innovative idea, maybe that idea, that process is good for that period of time, or maybe for a while. But after that, with changes happening in the economy, you need to go back and change it and see what is different, what could be applicable then is now not applicable at this point in time. So the second pillar is always constantly re-engineer your processes and your policies. The third was the policy re-engineering. We seldomly become on policies and then they became a cornerstone, as if they are a holy book, can never be touched and changed almost for a very, very long time. And I give a very simple example of what UAE does. So I'll give you an extreme example, what His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid had did. He worked saying, look, I want people to come to the airport. I want them to come to have the most seamless access to come into and visit the country. They should walk in through a green light and that's it. And everything is done. Of course, they were testing it for a while and we've gone through it and it was an amazing experience. Who could allow people coming in through a green light without you flashing your passport and ID, anything? Of course, you need to be UAE residents because they have to take your biometric, but still, it's amazing. They were the first to apply that thing in the entire Middle East. I mean, I think even when I used to go to US, it was very difficult getting into US, to be honest with you.
Don't even go there with that, because that was it's the worst. Go ahead.
So you need to constantly look at your people, processes, re-engineering, and change how policies should look like. If you constantly keep on doing these things, you kind of remain agile. You may have a lot of other goals, success factors, but I believe over my 30 years career now, I believe very early on, I decided that this is the right thing. And this is something I amalgamated it at the age of probably 26, 27. So I realized that worked very well because I was working with people since I started my career. And the moment I took care of people, and by the way, people are very smart. They will actually get to know whether you're genuinely taking care of them or you're not. And I always tell people, if you're a chameleon, you can last for 6 months on average. That's the statistics.
Okay.
And you will show your true color on an average of 6 months, either earlier or either later than that. But 6 months is an average for you. So always don't judge people or new CEOs or new heads and all this thing as early on. Give them time. Take your time to judge them. And that worked very well. So the people are very smart. So you need to be very genuine how you take care of people. And people will see through. Some people will see through it.
You need to teach it. You need to teach a leadership development course. You really, really need to get involved on that side, because I do a lot of work on that. And what you're talking about is just practical knowledge. This is not brain surgery stuff that you're talking about. Listening to your people, making sure that you're there for your people and guiding them through careers and making decisions and all of that, which is what it's about. But you know what I find interesting is you were talking through, you tried medical school and you went back to your father and said, not working, I want to do something else. And your father was there to guide you, a gentle hand to say, you know what, try something else or whatever it is. And I say that because I know so many lawyers that are not lawyering anymore. I know so many accountants that are not accountants anymore. And sometimes you can make a decision to try something and you realize it's not there. But you had the support to say, okay, go try something else.
Yeah. I think my father also had been extremely humble person, and he was extending help to everybody else. And the very first help, of course, he extended to his family members and to his son. I'm the eldest in the family. So he's been very, very, very understanding, to be honest with you. We come from what he called very humble start as a family, to be honest with you. And his head was always on the ground, regardless of whatever he achieved, whatever he's done. I think if you ask anybody who's been associated with my father, he will say he is the person who would help anybody, even if he doesn't know them, regardless of the situation or the matter. So I knew it that if I call my father, he will tell me, go ahead and do whatever suits you. To the extent, anything I asked and anything we asked for, it was kind of been there for us, despite, we've been a very medium-sized family in terms of, we're not very rich. We come from a medium place. So, but we grew along with them. Mom was amazing as well, very supportive all the time. That helps. I mean, I think being a family-oriented, having values, kinds of make you go a long way in life. And that's one of the 6 things I want to teach our children, which is how do we preserve values? And I'm jumping over here because that's very important from a support perspective. Yeah. I've invested in a company called Optimization Hub based in Australia. The CEO and me have the same aligned thoughts. Is how do we support transitioning of children, particularly those in the university today, so they can hopefully in the future become good leaders. And because the leaders we have today, mostly in the world, are not really helping out because we are actually on each other's throat, to be honest with you.
That's
So
another.
how do we change?
That's another discussion.
Yeah,
Trust me.
yeah. So it's good to have a good family support system. It's very important. There is a statistics there is if you have a strong family with a strong values, the chances of success of this family is about 93%. That's
Really?
relatively huge. Yeah, it was a statistics that I read somewhere in about 95. There were McKinsey involved into it. There was another independent study done by BCG as well. And they were studying family businesses, values, and all this thing. Intriguing because usually they don't do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And there was some local studies over there here, and they realized, when you have a good value system in a family and the family is being very cohesive, then your fabric is strong. You're able to go a long way.
I think of you talked about your father. I think of my father. Never finished college or high school for that matter, but he was a small businessman. And I think of the sayings that he would say to me, and he would talk through things when I was a kid. Sometimes you ignored it, but so many times when I'm facing a difficult situation, it comes back to an anchor point that he talked to me about, and I go back to that and use that as my guiding piece to make a decision or whatever. So I understand how important that is, that family structure, to do that. So how do we help? I teach at American University in Dubai. I teach a course there in the MBA program on human resources. And I think of all the work I do, I enjoy that more than anything because I enjoy working with the young kids, young adults who are trying to figure out what it's going to be like, trying to get this degree and move beyond that. Of all the work I do globally, I enjoy that more so than others because based on the same thing you're talking about. How do I give back and connect with people? And it's not just transactional.
I can relate to that because I go and give talks in universities from New York University, Birmingham University, University of Sharjah, Harriet Watt, and so forth. And of course, I talk about different topics. And you actually reminded me when you said your father. My father was very kind that he would take me to the schools and bring me back. I think I was the only one who he did that too. The others had to go to the bus to be through the buses. And the four things he taught me all the time, it was just amazing. All coming from our value system, from our religion, faith, and so forth. So, that's important that we resonate that with our children and even the young children and young, youth that we have in the universities. So one of the things he told me, one of the first important thing he told me, he said, never, ever lie. Whatever happens, never lie. You'll always be successful and succeed in your life as long as you're not lying. Everything else can be managed. Second, he said, never ever talk about and mess about with anybody's female, woman, girls. Never get into that business. Mind your business. You've got a mother, you've got a sister. In the future, you'll have a wife and a daughter.
Yeah.
Third, he said, never borrow money. You've got a half a dirham, spend that. Don't overspend anything. So he taught me financial freedom early on while I'm trying to develop a course for financial freedom for our children in the schools.
Okay.
That's one of the things we need to teach, other than 6 things. I already mentioned 3 now. And fourth, he said, if you ever lend money to a friend or anybody, expect it that it will not come back so you don't lose relationships or don't lend.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you. I think, as I mentioned even earlier, I think it's very important that we go back to the youth. And that's why I was very happy to join this company as an advisor, as a partner, as a board member of Optimization Hub, just to teach children and how to make them transition in their life through value system. And we go across globally all the universities. Now, one of the last courses we done was American University of Nigeria back in November. So we did a course with them. Then we were invited by the president of Nigeria himself, the newly appointed one. We actually also were humbled that a few ministers joined with us because we want them to join with us to be part of the teachers, so they can be part of the agents of change, and that was very helpful. It was a full day things because there's so much of power in the young generation. I always say they're 50-50, but they're still the 50% have a huge force, but they need direction. They're missing today true leadership. And as I just touched upon saying it, that, we're missing those leaders, overall speaking, given the geopolitical arena that we have globally. So we don't want them to be misled. We want cohesiveness between them. So I completely agree with you. So when I go to universities, I feel inspired to be there. And that's why I prioritize my speaking universities or schools vis-a-vis going other places, speaking other panel discussion or keynote deliveries.
Yeah, I'm the same. That and educational conferences. If that comes up to me, I'm going to try and switch something around to be a part of that, because I understand the importance of that. So mentorship plays a huge role in that. So as you manage teams, in all of your work that you're doing now, what are some key groundings that you developed, the new level of leaders like you talked about the person who spotted you and you were half the age of the others, but they saw something there. How do you handle that from your side now that you've gone through this transition for 20 plus years? Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a chance, a very humbling chance, to meet someone called Liz Wiseman. Liz Wiseman, she wrote a book called Multiplier. And I was in a workshop with her, and she actually interviewed lots of global leaders globally. And one of them was Tim Cook, who's the current CEO of Apple. But when she interviewed him on his leadership style, he was a COO at that point of time. He was not a CEO then, because Steve Jobs was still alive. So we had a great discussion, and she happened to give me her book and write me something. So based on a couple of hours of discussion with her, she said, "I wish I could have interviewed you for my book." I said, "Why?" She said, the thing you talk about leadership is exactly what I'm looking for. So she wrote me a book, and I've got the book with me over here. I'm not sure if that's the problem with sometimes this thing.
Multipliers. I know the book. I've read the book. Yeah.
So she wrote me, "You unleash genius and brilliance around you." So she asked me, "Where did you bring your stuff from?" Because this is exactly what I teach in my book. So she had two leadership styles. She said, leaders can be either a multiplier or a diminisher. Multiplier, that means they multiply and breed leaders around them. They make sure the team become leaders. And diminishers, they actually suppress their people out of scare, and they do not want them to be leaders. Or there is a subcategory which is accidental diminisher.
Yeah.
So they're diminishing their people unconsciously. They don't want to do it, but they're doing it because of their style. And given that I've been working with people so many, my objective was all the time, how do I have every single person I'm working with, at least the management team of mine, that they become strong leaders themselves and they can take over my job, which is opposite what usually people feel about, because they said, "Okay, if somebody get ready and take over my job, what am I going to do next?"
Yeah.
What I used to tell my people, the moment you're ready to take a new role, I'm sure I'll find something else. I mean, God is so great, and job market is so great that you'll always evolve. Nobody stays static. If this job was constant to the person before me, then I would have not got that job. And similarly, other jobs as well. So again, very, very humbling. I think almost all my people I worked with who reported to me, worked with me directly, they all were significant, smart, very down to earth, strong leaders. When I talk to them, and some of them, I have a working relationship with them for about 20 years. We were in Citibank for about 15 years. Then I moved to a bank from faith perspective to Islamic bank. I asked them to come and join me. They didn't even ask what's going to be the salary like. They didn't even ask what's going to be the title like. They said, "You're going, we're coming with you." So I took quite a lot of people. That was a kind of a good parade to the new bank over there. So I think people ought to make sure if you want to really adopt a style that you actually breed leaders, that you make sure that the people around you will eventually have to take over your post. Make them all ready, and the best will win and get it done. And if not in that organization, maybe another department, maybe another organization.
It's amazing. What I was going to say, it's amazing you mentioned that, because I got a flashback. I worked with 20 years ago, and we sit down and have these conversations back and forth. And she's in Australia now on a project. She's a managing director for one of the big fours. I won't say which one. and I saw that she was giving a speech. I heard a keynote, and I said, "You have no idea." I said, "I have a big smile on my face from Dubai." And she said, she sent me a DM, and she said, "I often look back on the conversations we had, and if we wouldn't have had those in-depth conversations on 42nd Street when nobody was there early in the morning, I don't think I would have been here." And you have no idea how great I felt, because I still connect with people that I worked with my first job out of college, that I've managed, and building the relationship with people, mentorships and all those kinds of things, because it is important. So thank you for kind of giving me that flashback. And I had this yesterday. So I want to do a quick shout out to people that's listening in. Dana Thompson says, "Agree that membership is essential." She said, "Your father's saying became your inner voice." That is my inner voice, because I always think, well, what would Daddy do if he was here? Because his level of thinking was always basic. He didn't go to the big theories, and he didn't know the big theories, but he knew how to build a business, and he knew how to be successful, and that's all he dealt with. John Self, who's a frequent listener every week, says that there was a study at Harvard found that successful managers come from families where they embed with a strong sense of love. In other words, building those people through that particular category. Peter Piccinini, who's going to be an upcoming guest, I got to send him the invites on this. He says leadership development, absolutely, really great. We have Joe Levy, who we worked together at IBM years ago. Reading from New York, self-learning is a great motivation. And who else do we have? My good buddy here, Jim Moy, who's a big shot attorney in Washington, D.C. He doesn't like when I say that, but he was my neighbor in Saudi Arabia when I worked there as a chief human resource officer, and he came over, and very, very good friend of mine. So the reason that we do this show, it's about people learning the interactions beyond the role, because I think social media kind of shows you everybody's here, but you don't know what the transition was as you walk through that. Medical school wasn't for me. I want to try something else. I want to get here and try engineer. And you did all these things to get there. And I think lots of times younger people, again, I'll go back to why I enjoy working with these schools, because you see young people going through this transformation and trying to figure out what it's going to look like beyond this. So that's just why exactly that we do this. So walk us through. I'm going to come back to you now. Walk us through how you faced a major challenge and you were able to make a decision and kind of circumvent and get back on track. Because we all have these stumbling blocks to say, oh, what am I going to do now?
Life is full of challenges. I mean, I don't think life would have been good if we not face any challenges, to be honest with you. And that's the normal thing to have. I think that's the norm, that you would face challenges and not to face challenges. Very few people not facing any challenges. I think the best way to handle any challenge, it's always be with your team. And I remember there were a lot of challenges. I'll give you one of the most, I think, important ones. I was sent to Bahrain to audit the Citibank Bahrain because they kind of wiped up their full year budget in the first 2 months. And the CEO said, go and just an audit, see what's going on with that business, because there was a good business. What happened suddenly in that year? This was year 2000. And they also sent me an amazing lady from Turkey. She also audited with me. And at the end, we gave a report with 33 things to be done. Cut the long story short, they told me, come, okay, why don't you work on this? And you stay back. And I said, no, I want to go back. And I come back and they said, okay, they kind of convinced me to work over there for a year. So I started working over there. Now, the people were great. The entire team was really nice, but I think they were lacking leadership, in my humble opinion. So we worked with them. And in my humble opinion, I wanted to make sure in the first 6 months, we reversed the trajectory of whatever losses we were going through. And then we need to then go and develop the entire thing. We never hired a single person. I hired only one additional person. We've never fired anybody. Nobody was let go. The entire team was made to completely become productive automatically. But how did we do it? By sitting almost together, all of us, telling them this is the situation. This is a firefight happening now. And this is the challenge upon us. What do we should do next? What do you think? The ideas they come up with are just amazing. So now they become part of the solution, rather than saying that this guy gave me the solution and we need to adopt someone else's solution. I may not be very convinced. But when everybody comes together, yes, it could be a cocktail, but you do it in a very good way that you put them together, you write the board, the various solution over there, and you start narrowing down by talking and discussing with them, saying, what is it that we want to do? And then when they do it, you won't believe it. We started reversing on the month 6. By end of the year, not only we regained back, we actually became one of the top countries percentage-wise delivering in EMEA, which is Europe, Middle East, and Africa. 21 countries were there. We're talking about countries like Germany, UAE, UK, all of them. Think about. So in terms of percentage of movement, we were top number 1. So everybody was intrigued what happened, and that was an important thing for us as an achievement. So it was the team who did it, and not one single person. Yes, you always need somebody as a guiding light, because I always say, and I've learned this thing from one of the manager I reported to in Citibank Dubai, Mohammed bin Break, an amazing gentleman who was also the group CEO for Dubai Properties Group when he joined the property group then. And he said, look, when the fish stinks, it stinks from the head. So you go back to the head. If things are not working well, there's a problem with someone who's leading this organization. If something is really working very well, 80% of the time, it is the head who's leading and making that happen. But then now the style would differ. Is the head is inclusive? Is he actually a multiplier, or is the head is diminisher? And that will bring my idea of overlasting things. So if you're a multiplier, then the solution you put along with your people, it will be a long-lasting effect. And that how will you get to know that? When you go and leave, the testament time is if your team going to deliver or not, because you're not there. Yeah. So whenever I went to leave, I think my people did much better than when I'm not around. Yeah. And I asked them, why do you guys do that? He said, look, you're not around, so we better do much better. So we make sure we're autopilot. So it was always autopilot whenever I go and leave. I mean, it's just amazing to have people, great people like that. And by the way, these people are my family. I wouldn't say they're my second family. We still meet each other. I've seen them some of them getting married, getting children, and some of them also their children graduated and got children. So it's a very long relationship. So we're still stuck around, and most of them, because some of them actually flew to other countries, but we're still in a group and we talk, and we still go out for a dinner every now and then.
Yeah, that's so cool. One of the questions I would always ask when I was interviewing for senior leaders that work on my team, I would ask questions about your prior job, the prior job to that, and the prior job to that. And my question was centered around how many of those people that you still stay in touch with? You manage a team of people. How many people you still stay in touch with? And if they said, well, no, not really. We kind of all went our separate ways. And then the next one time I asked you that again, and you kind of give me the same thing. I knew for the most part, I didn't want that person. That was an assumption I was making, but I wanted people to make connections. And I wanted people to talk about someone that they worked with 15 years ago. The young lady who's the managing director gave me the story last night and said, you have no idea how much our conversations meant to my career. And I would not be here at this global conference if it wasn't for those conversations. We had good conversations, but I didn't know it had that impact. And that's one of the things that I would always ask people, because I wanted multipliers. You talked about, I wanted multipliers. I go back to Liz's book. I wanted multipliers, people who were going to grow other leaders in doing that.
Yeah, and that's very important, because it goes back to my original message. If you're really genuine in helping and developing people, and that's my message to all the people, to be honest with you, then you're actually making sure that you all are in tandem working together. And that's why almost everybody, we're got a family relationship. They know my wife, my children. I got married very late at the age of 33, which is uncommon, because most of my other brothers got married at the age of 25, 26, and that's our tradition over here in UAE and in the Arab world. So they've happened to see, my children when they're born in the hospitals. They know my wife very well. We know each other's spouses very well. So we go out for dinners all the time. We connect to each other. I think that emotional feeling are very important to get that bonding there, and that tells you how you actually transition throughout your life. And because they are your family, to be honest with you. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I tell them they're more closer to your family, metaphorically as well, and even actually, because you actually see them more often than you see your own family. Yeah. You spend, on average, 10 hours in office, then you spend time at home, your own family, because by the time you come, you have very little time with your wife and with your children. Yeah. You probably spend half of the time you spend with your colleagues at the office. So they are your family. So you better have that mentality, because that's how you make it go a long way in your life with you. And I honestly speak, for me, they're everything. I mean, we open up, they talk to me about their problems. And if I was like there for a lot of them when their children were having challenges, or they're having challenges with their families, and people come and talk. And this takes time, by the way. So if you're not really caring and really genuinely, then it's not going to work out. Because if you're telling that their family, you better make the time, because being compassionate does not come for free. And that's what I tell people. Compassion doesn't mean that I say, hi, hello, okay, fantastic, everything is fine with you. Oh, I'm sorry to feel about that. It doesn't happen like that. So when you're compassionate and you're actually with your people, that time you're spending with your people, you have to compensate it, because now you have to work extra to get the work done, because you've invested that time with your people. But your time, your work, what you need to attend to, probably has gone, so you have to compensate. That's compassion. So to be a compassionate, it has a price tag, which is time.
Yeah, that's the authenticity that comes through, because I've always said people can spot a phony 2 miles away. I mean, so when you think about leadership, being authentic, and people realize that you really care, as opposed to a transactional, and then you go to the work, and I need the work done by X amount of time. So that's the key to that. Yeah,
absolutely.
So one of the goals, as we begin to close out, one of the goals of the show was to bring powerful leaders in like yourself. And when you gave the presentation at the conference that I was the MC, I'm like, whoa, I need to talk a little more on that. And that's what kind of connected the two of us. But it's a creative platform for people across the globe to say, hey, it's not easy. It's not linear, because there's going to be a lot of detours and all those things that can come about as a result of that. So I want to congratulate you, because you brought up the full mission of exactly what the CEO series is about. And as we begin to close out, are there any takeaways you'd want to leave the audience?
Sure.
On your journey on leadership?
That's the message all the time I will give to everybody else, and I give it to my children very, very often. And it also comes from everybody's faith, is what impact you're going to leave in life. Don't think about material stuff. I think if you do it correctly, and if you really considering impacting people's life overall, you will get rewarded, whether sooner or later. You get it. And I'll say this thing from experience. When I was young, at the age of 22, you've got full of emotion and so forth. One of the things which really bothered me is, like, I wanted to grow very, very fast. And I wanted to get promoted twice a year, not even once a year. So I was lucky to get promoted every year at Citibank, which was itself kind of an exceptional as per the CEO. So when I was not getting promoted, the CEO was telling me, do you know that you're exceptionally getting promoted every year, and that's something doesn't happen in the history of Citibank. So now you want to get promoted every 2 years? I told him, look, because I know what I'm doing and what value I have. But then every Ramadan, I used to sit, I still do it today, even till now. I sit with myself and say, look, what is it the thing I need to change in myself to become a better human being?
Wow.
And one of the things early on I got to know, I think that was age of 26, 27. So I used to tell myself, look, if I am a believer, I believe whatever I do, I will get rewarded by God, whether here or thereafter, then I should focus on doing my job the right way, where I impact people's life, and leave the rest to God. It will automatically come. And I've seen of that result coming in. So I was not worried about what is my next job title early on at the age of 27. But before that, I was, to be honest with you, I was really worried, or I was really aspiring to get those titles very quickly. But at the age of 26, 27, I said, this is it. I'm not going to worry about what's my next job, what is my next title, what is my next income. I will leave it to God. I want to make sure that I do what is the right thing for the organization, for the people, and how I impact their life. And I leave the rest to God, and it will automatically come. So if you want to fight for your people, fight for their rights. If you do that thing correctly, everything, and you really inspire them to and make a career for them, God is not going to leave you alone. And I think God has been great to me because of that.
Yeah, it's going to all come down. So thank you so much for being a guest. This was absolutely impactful. As we begin to close out, for people that are here, like, comment, share this interview with your friends. We do a rebroadcast on Wednesday. The entire program will be live again, and we'll do a marketing piece behind it. So thank you so much. Stay online as we begin to close out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take the CEO series with you anywhere, anytime. All episodes are now available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and major streaming platforms. It's not just an interview, it's a masterclass in leadership.